What's up, guys? This is Poe, and I'd like to talk about three changes that I'd like. Well, changes or adjustments that I'd like to Samurai Shodown. Really like the game, but there's just no game is perfect, right? No game is absolutely perfect, and there are three things gameplay-wise that I'd like to discuss today. First off is I'd probably like an adjustment to the grab game. Now with the grab game, this game is about damage, right? So for the most part, unless you're choosing to get out of a corner or put somebody in a corner, you're usually gonna use your most damaging option for grabs. But I'm going to show you an example here on how damage scaling is a little weird for doing something that's a little bit more skillful than doing something that's more for practical damage. So Kyoshiro's most damaging grab is off of his back throw into standing heavy slash. You can see there it did 224 damage. But Kyoshiro also has a really cool combo that takes a lot more skill and precision to do when it comes to something that he can do off a grab. And that is doing a back throw into dashing, canceling into crouching medium slash into a special. So you can see there it did a lot less damage, but this was a lot harder to pull off as opposed to just doing his standard back throw into standing hard slash. So I like the game developers to take a look into that, seeing if they can reward players for using options that have higher execution and can actually contest the easier option with damage. Alright, second thing I want to bring up is invincible DPs. So it feels like there's a set of characters that are playing a different game, because as you can see here, I'm Hanzo. I've got this kick that I could use. I've got anti-air grab, and I got backdash, and during rage I've got my anti-air weapon flip. Right now let's switch up to Haomaru. One of the characters that has an invincible DP is medium, completely invincible and invulnerable to air attacks, and his R, that's a little bit more risky, kind of the same thing because it's invincible on startup, so it roughly does the same thing. It's just that the medium one doesn't have invincibility to ground moves. So the issue here is that all the characters that have this move, well, there's two issues. One is the frame that the invincibility starts at. Now if, let's say, Yashimaru, who I'm using as the example here since his jump in heavy slash is one of the best in the game. Look at the range it has. Right now, let's say I read his jump in and I read it at the peak. Right, that's a good read. It makes sense that I'm catching him with my DP, but because of how much invincibility this has, it doesn't matter if I'm late on the draw to try and catch him on a DP, or if I misread his jump and just did it a little bit late. I can go as late as possible and his weapon could be phasing through me, and there's no trade, there's no kind of way, there's no chance of him beating me. So that just completely negates anybody's air game when it comes to anybody trying to jump in against these certain set of characters. And as time goes by, I think there's really going to be a gap that's going to start bridging out further and further between the tiers if people start playing to that strength, to the strength of these characters when it comes to shutting down and frustrating the ground game, so that people play to try and get people to jump at them. So I'm going to show you guys in slow motion with Yashimaru's jump in, and he's going to be late with hitting the button, and Haomaru's not going to give two rats ass on how late Yashimaru jumps in with this button. So in this game, the deeper you're jumping with a normal, the better, because you have a higher chance of getting your combos off. But if the character with an invincible DP is late on the draw, they still are an added advantage. So I think there needs to be a little bit of adjustment when it comes to when the invincibility starts, or how long it starts for, or something to the extent where it's not just a free punish where the majority of the other characters are playing a completely different game when it comes to having to worry about jumping in, or worry about what options they have when people are jumping in against them. And it's not like the tools that characters have, that these characters with DP have, aren't any better or worse. They're about the same, because if you look at Haomaru, he's got a reflect, he's got a projectile, he's got this godlike button, this god tier button, which is down heavy slash, that doesn't give a fuck about anything. He doesn't need a DP. He just has down heavy slash. The easiest button you could do, you could play, I mean, the easiest button you could use with him, and he doesn't need to use it. He doesn't need to use any other type of anti-air because he's got an invincible DP. I'm going to show you a couple more examples of all these anti-airs that other characters have in the game that have invincible DPs, but there's no reason to use them because they have that one option that is impenetrable. Alright guys, and the last thing I want to talk about is the amount of repeat animations a lot of characters have in the game. I know this game has a lot of legacy behind it. I know they wanted to get back to one of the roots of where this franchise came from, so there was a lot of copy paste with all the moves, of course, because they worked in the past. Why aren't they working now in the future, right? But if you notice a lot more of their newer characters, their buttons are greatly differ from more of the legacy characters in the game. And I'm going to show you the difference between this beautiful character over here and what's probably the #1 offender when it comes to reused animations for moves. So I'm going to go through Kyoshiro's movesets, and then I'm going to go through Charlotte's. As you can see, Kyoshiro's has a pretty wide array of ranges and angles and all that stuff. But then you come across Charlotte, and just too many of her moves are a little bit the same. And it's not just her. There's, throughout the entire cast, I think there's probably 90% of all the characters have some type of reused animation for, let's say, standing light slash and dashing light slash, or crouching medium slash into crouching light slash. Like, things like that is repeated throughout the entire game. And I think I just like a little bit more variety in what moves are used for, instead of having them be a little bit more damage and a little bit more range, but the animation's ridiculously similar. It's only like a little bit of ink off of the swings. If you see the black ink off of the swings, that's like the main difference on them. And for the players too that you're fighting against, it would make a little bit more sense if this is a competitive game to really be able to tell which moves are coming at you, whether it's a light or a medium, especially since there's a deflect mechanic and a dodge mechanic in the game. It'll help you really figure out what do you do about it, or how much recovery a character has from a move. So I'm going to show you Charlotte's repeat animations. There you go, guys. Those are the 3 things I'd like to see some type of adjustment in the game. I know the last one's probably more like a season 2 kind of thing, or maybe like a work in progress as patches happen. This game has had a decent amount of patches and a decent amount of changes happen every time a new DLC comes out, and there's going to be a season 2 with at least 4 more DLC characters coming out. So hopefully as the game progresses, there's going to be hopefully a mindset where they're trying to broaden the gameplay within the game, and that's what I'm kind of trying to do. I'm trying to see what ideas can potentially make it less stagnant as the game's meta progresses. So thanks a lot for listening. Let me know your ideas down below, and like the comment and share the video if you want to share it to anybody else in the community. We have a small community. Let's help each other out with content out there. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to leave you guys with a montage of all the rest of the repeat animations that I've noticed so far.